Okay, guys. So on the platform, you have to enable the SSH service. I mean um, that's the first step. So I think you guys already know how to enable the SSH service. So it's very simple. You just need to write service space SSH space start. It will start the service of SSH on your Kali Linux. If you want to check whether your service is working or no, what is the status of the service, you can simply write SSH status, and then you will know that whether the service is running or not. So this is the first step of the lab. Now, if I want to test if this service is, if I want to access it, I think we did it in one of our labs before, that from the host machine that you can have a software like Putty. It's free, and here you are going to write the IP address um, of the Kali machine. So let me check the IP. So this is 36.132. So I'm going to paste it here, and you can see here that the connection type is already by default SSH. So when I open this, it is giving me that there's a potential security breach and blah blah blah. It's basically let me see. So because the keys are being exchanged, so that's why it is giving me this error. So I'm just going to accept it, and I have the uh, login available for Kali. Now remember one thing: if I try to enter root and then I try to enter tool, it is not going to allow me with the root. So it will only allow me with the low privilege user unless I have to go and allow root from outside as well. So what I recommend is that you can create a new user who can access this SSH to your Kali Linux. So I have already actually created a user, but I'm going to create a new one so that you also know how to create a user. It's very simple. Add user. Let me just clear it. Add user, and then you can give a name of, let's say I'm giving test user. So this is my user, test user. I can give any password. Okay, yes. You don't need to fill all the details, but now you can see that I have successfully created a user called test user. Now, if I go back to the putty and then I have to restart it again. So here I'm going to, sorry, I think it was 192.168.36.132. And then I make another SSH connection. Now this time I'm going to log in with the test user and not the root user, because the root user doesn't allow, is not allowed by default to have an SSH connection. So I will use test user, and I enter the password. Now this is a low privilege user, as you can see, but now I am logged in. If I just want to verify if I have access to the Kali Linux, then it should actually show me the with if config that what is the IP address of Kali. So I can do pretty much everything from SSH. And this is how basically it works in the real world. That when you want to make an SSH connection to one of your servers. Now the idea of port forwarding, which is given in the lab, which VMware users, you don't need to do that, because there's no option in the VMware to do port forwarding unless you have a paid version. So here you can see it's a non-commercial version of the VMware, and it does not allow. If you have VirtualBox, you can go ahead and do the port forwarding as well. All right. So now once I have the SSH connection, yeah. So what I was saying about the port forwarding is that, like for example, this Kali Linux machine is not accessible from outside, means it is not accessible from the internet. So if it is not accessible from the internet, well, what is the reason? Can anyone answer me that why I cannot access this virtual machine that I have?
Because it doesn't have physical ports, maybe.
No, it's not that. So this is the IP address of my machine, and why I cannot access this IP address from, let's just say from Saudi Arabia, because right now I'm in Pakistan, for instance.
Because the servers are not Saudi servers, maybe.
Okay, so here's the thing. Remember, if you want to access something from outside, from over the internet, like what I'm trying to say here is that when I'm within my Windows machine and I ping, or I just made an SSH connection. In fact, let me give you the SSH example. So I'm trying to access Kali Linux from a Windows machine, and I was able to SSH by using simply, giving the IP address, and it worked for me. Now the question is the same thing. I want to do it from sitting in Saudi Arabia, and I have my Kali Linux machine somewhere in Pakistan, and it has this IP address. Can I access it or no? The answer to this question is no, you cannot access it because this is a private IP address. This is a local IP address. Whenever you are trying to access something over the internet, it is required to have a public IP address. Are you getting my point? For example,
Yes.
I'm going to google.com, right? Now, when I go to google.com, eventually we know that there is an IP address for google.com, right? So
Mhm.
what it means is that if I want to access the Google server, although I'm using a web service here that I'm sending an HTTP request, but for example, if I want to SSH the Google server, I can do it. Why? Because this Google server has a public IP address. Let me show you. Uh, let's just say who is. All right. So let me just show you, like every domain, it has a public IP address. For example, I'm looking for a domain, uh, codingdojo.com. Okay, so learn, or what is login, not I think, yeah. I think this is the domain that we guys are using now. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Okay, so if you see here, when I wanted to find out, okay, coding dojo. um, Okay, the domain that I just entered, login.codingdojo.com, basically, which basically means that I wanted to find out by using this whois lookup that what is the IP address, where is it hosted. So you can see here that this is the public IP address of this website that I'm accessing. So this is a public IP. It is accessible from outside over the internet. But my IP address, which is for Kali, for example, 192.168.36.132, it's not accessible from outside. So if you have a situation like this, in which you have a machine or a server which has a local IP, but still you want to access it from outside over the internet, you need to do port forwarding in order to access this service. Are you getting my point now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But what's the difference between a local and a public IP? Since by my local IP, I can go over the internet. So what's the difference there?
No, you are going to the internet accessing, but your machine is not accessible by the other users on the internet. That's the difference. Like, for
Okay.
example, I just told you, if I'm running a web service here, let me start the web service and give you the example. Okay, service, uh, Apache to start. So I'm starting an Apache web service. So I have a web server now running on Kali Linux. Okay. Now just see, for example, if I want to access this web server, I need the IP address of my Kali Linux machine, right? So I will go to the browser and I will write here because I do not have a domain, so I'm going to access it by using the IP address. So now you can see that I have basically a web server and I got the page. Now open your browser, all of you, and write this IP address that I have, 192.168.36.132. Write it in your browser and press enter, see what you get. Because for me, I got the page. It means my web server is running, I can access this website. But for you guys, just open your browser and write my IP address, 192.168.36.2. See if you can see this page or no. You will get a message saying that you cannot access this page or it's not available or something like that. Can you do that for me on your machines, please? Write my IP address, 192.168.36.132, and tell me if what message do you get?
Okay, we write it
I
in the
can't
Kali
reach
machine or the
this
Windows?
page.
We write it in the Kali machine or Windows?
In any machine where you have internet.
Okay.
Can't reach this page.
Yes. So why you cannot reach this page, but I can. I can reach this page because this is running in my local network. Okay, within my network. It's a local IP address, but you cannot access it because it is a local IP for me. So you need a public IP. If I want this page or this website to be accessible all over the world, I need a public IP address. Is this clear now?
It's clear.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, it's clear.
So the idea behind the port forwarding is that you can still forward your outside requests to your private IP address by using port forwarding. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Now let's go back. So let's go to the next task that you guys have to do. So once you have done with so all this explanation that I just gave is basically for your knowledge. The only thing you need to do is that you need to start for the lab. You need to start the SSH service by running service SSH start. Create a new user. The new user, you can give it your name, and then from your host machine, open PuTTY and then try to SSH your Kali Linux machine, and then you can see if you are able to log in by using SSH or not. So this is part one of the lab. Now the part two, which I just sent you, is basically that how we can monitor and control the network traffic using TCP wrappers. So it starts with where you left off in the first lab, where is that you have the SSH, you already installed it. So ignore this step number one, because you have already enabled the service and it is installed there. You have added a new user already. So leave this step. Now the third step for this lab is that, for this second lab is that you want to install the FTP service on the Kali Linux. So it doesn't have FTP by default. So what you can do is that if you want to install FTP service, you have to write apt-get install vsftpd. Okay, vsftpd. So when you press enter, it is going to install it. For me, I already have it, so it says that your vsftpd is already the newest version. And by the way, these screenshots are given here. Okay, so don't worry that. Yeah. So here you can see installing the SSH. So I told you no need to do this step because you already have SSH. Adding a new user. This is how you will add. So add user space Asad, or you can give your own name. Installing the FTP service or server. You have to use this command, apt-get install vsftpd. Once you are done with this, basically your FTP service is running. It's installed. Now, in order to start the FTP service, so I have already started the SSH service. Now I'm going to start vsftpd start. Okay. So this is going to start the VS or FTP service on my Kali Linux machine. So if I want to check the status of my FTP service, you can see it that it's running and it's loaded and it's active, right? Now, can anyone tell me what is the purpose of FTP service when we say, okay, FTP? What is the purpose of having this?
File transmission protocol.
Exactly. So it's basically this service. When I install it, it makes my Kali Linux as an FTP server, which means I can upload or download files from Kali Linux from another machine. So for example, I have a Windows machine. If I want to access some files from the Linux, I can use the FTP service to do that. If I want to make a connection with the machine and do the configurations, I need to use SSH service. And SSH, we already saw how we can use it. All right, so there are a few changes that you need to do in the FTP before you can actually make it work. Again, the instructions are given here that if you want to allow the local users, so what local user? On the Kali Linux, I have created a user called Raza, or I have created a user called test user. If you want to allow him that he can upload or download files from the Kali Linux machine, then you need to do some changes in the configuration file. Okay, so what changes you need to do? I will show you. Now, you guys can use any editor that you like. Like, for example, you have Nano. Most of you guys are, I think, using Nano because VI editor is a little bit tricky to use. So you can use a Nano editor. And I need to make some modifications in the vsftpd.configuration file. So write nano space. So what is in the lab is that I'm using a different editor here, okay? I use the VI editor, but you guys will be using the Nano editor. When you press enter, you basically see that it has, entered the configuration file. Now there is, initially, I think it was like this. So there was a hash sign because I already made the changes. So it was like disabled. So I have to just uncomment it to enable it. And then the write enable also I need to uncomment it, right? So now my user can actually access the FTP server and he can also write or upload files on the server. So these are the two changes, and there's one more change, which is that I think we don't need to do it, the third change. So if you keep coming down, yeah, there's one more change. So you can see here that I have ch root underscore local underscore user equal to yes. So make sure this is uncommented, okay? I think it will be like this. So all you have to do is just remove the hash sign. So it is uncommented. Although I think in the lab, it's written like you need to uncomment this ch and root underscore list underscore enable. I recommend that don't do it, okay? Leave this thing as such. Because if you do this, your FTP will have some problem because I tested it. If I uncomment it, it will give me problems. So don't uncomment this ch underscore list underscore enable. Okay. And I think that's it. Now I will just save it. So in order to save it, you have to press Control, I think O. Or Control X, I guess. Control O and then Control X, and it has saved all my changes, right? So let me just check now FTP if it is working or is it. So when you make changes in the configuration file, remember, you need to restart the service, okay? So I'm going to stop it. and then I will start it again. You can also use restart. There's an option you can write service vsftpd restart. It will restart the service. Now let me see if I can access this FTP from my Windows machine. So how do you access from Windows machine? There are two ways to access it. First way is you can download an FTP client. So you will have to download a small application like, let me just Google and see which application you can use. So FTP client application for Windows. In fact, I'm going to write it as free FTP client. So I think you can use FileZilla application. For this lab, you don't need to use, but I'm just telling you that you can use. You can download this client application. I don't know if you need to, because I have already set up the FTP server, but you can try this, just download the client. Okay, just download the client and then just write the IP address. But for this particular lab, you don't need to install anything. You can simply write in the command prompt of the Windows FTP 192.168.36. This is the IP address of my Kali Linux, okay? 36.132. Now, as you can see that when I press enter, it says that it is connected to 36.132 VS FTPD service is running there. And then it says that, okay, what is the user with which you want to log in? So like I told you, don't try to log in with the root user. I don't think it will allow you, but since I created another user called test user, so I'm going to use that. VSFTPD is refusing to run with the writable root inside chroot. Okay. Let me just go and do one modification back in the file because I enabled the writable. So for the time being, we just want to test if we can use FTP or not. It's not about that we are learning the FTP and how to use FTP. We are just enabling the service so that we can use TCP wrappers to either allow it or block it. Okay, so let me just comment this for the time being. We will come back to it later if needed. Okay.
So, Mr. Asad, the
Yes.
purpose of using FTP from Windows to Kali is to access the Kali machine from Windows?
Just a minute. Yes, come again.
The purpose to use an FTP service from Windows to Kali is to access Kali.
To access the files or to upload or download the files on Kali, because now I made my Kali Linux as an FTP server. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
So
So
now,
upload and download from Windows to Kali. Like Kali is the server and Windows is the client.
yes, exactly. So, like I said, we are not learning that we are how we are uploading and downloading the file. We are learning that, okay, I can make an FTP connection with the server, with the Kali Linux server. Now, the next step that is that we have now two services, SSH and FTP, running on Kali. Then I will tell you how you can use TCP wrappers to basically block or allow these FTP and all these requests that are coming to the server. Okay.
Okay.
Now
so one more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just to make sure. And the SSH just to access the Kali remotely from Windows.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now I will try again. Test user and tour. What's the problem? VSF to be refusing to run. I did not restart my service. So that's why. Okay, stop. and start. By the way, you can restart also, like you can just write here start instead of start stop. You can just write restart. All right. Now I will try to FTP again, and hopefully this time it is successful. Test user tour. Hmm. I just want to see this doing with all the users. It's a strange. Anyways, maybe it was still probably was not updated or something. But you can see now that I actually created another user also called Raza, which is again just I added in the same way. So I don't know why it's acting weird that it's not working for test user, but it's working for the Raza user. Again, Raza is not a root user. Remember that, okay? It's a normal user. Okay, and now you can see here that my FTP login is successful here, which basically means that I can, and I'm using it in the command prompt. Remember, if you are looking to upload or download files, you can download the client. And as I showed you, the clients, there are free clients which are available, which you can use, and they will work fine. And I have tested this before as well, but that is not the lab. The lab is that I can send an FTP request, and I have logged into the FTP server of Kali Linux. Now let's go to the next step. What is the next step in the lab? So the next step, so far we have reached this step and reached till this point. Now let's talk about the TCP wrappers and what they can do. So remember, on your Kali Linux machine, there are two files, hosts.allow file and hosts.deny file. You can actually use these to filter the requests that are coming to your Kali Linux machine. So, or any, machine, any Linux machine, or any Linux server, they all have these hosts.allow and hosts.deny file. Now, how can you find where is this? Actually, the path is very simple. It is in the etc directory. So /etc host.allow file is there. But if you don't know, or you're looking for a file which you don't know the whole path, you can always use locate command to find out the file that you're looking for. So for example, here, I say that, okay, I'm looking for host.allow file. If I press enter, wherever they have host.allow file, it will give you the path. So here you can see that it is in the /etc directory. It is also in the user shared doc vsftpd, blah, blah, blah. If I'm looking for host.deny file, I can again write the same thing, and I can see that there is /etc host.deny file, right? Now, what do we want to do with this file? Before I actually start modifying this file, I just want to show you what is inside this file. So if I just write cat slash etc host.allow. So if you can see here, it's right now it's an empty file. All these lines, they are in the hash comment. So whenever you see a hash in front of a script or a line, it means that it is just a comment. There's nothing actually going on in this file host.log. All of them, they are basically in the comment. So now let's see what we want to do in the next step. So the task was, so we are here. We did the SSH, we added a user, we did the FTP configuration, verify that both the services are running, and you are able to send an SSH and FTP request to Kali. We are done verifying that. Now, the next task is that block one host from sending SSH request to Linux and allow all other users to send SSH request. Now you have to do this tasks in I think it was host.allow, not allow.host. So now we are here in step number 5. We know that we can SSH from the Windows machine. But now what I want to do is that the next time when I send an SSH request, the Kali Linux should block me, my request, from this machine, from the host Windows machine. But if I do it from the other machines, it should be able to allow me. Okay, now let's try to first block it. So again, I will just show you that I can still SSH my Kali Linux. So 192.168.36.132. And if I click open, as you can see that I can send an SSH request, and I can log in as well. And you know that now I want to block this by using this TCP wrapper, or in other words, by going into the file and writing something to allow a block. Okay, so now let's go to, so I'm going to use nano again, /etc. So you guys use nano. Okay, I like VI. I don't like nano. So don't get confused why I'm using VI. Don't use VI, okay? Because VI, it's a little bit tricky when you want to save the file. You have to use a key pattern to save it. So at this point, you can use nano because nano is much more simpler. Okay. No. So I wanted to go to /etc and hosts.allow. I'm repeating again and again. If you don't know how to save a file in the VI editor, don't use it. So sometimes what happens when the students are there watching the video, they start writing the same commands. So for your sake, I will not do it because otherwise you will do the same. Some of you might end up doing the same. And then, so nano. Okay. Now you can see here I'm inside the host.allow file, and there's basically nothing here right now. So what I want to do, what is my task? I want to deny my Windows machine, which is this one, and I want to block it from sending SSH request to the Kali Linux. So this is my my goal. And at the same time, I want to allow all other IP addresses to be able to send the SSH request. Now, what is my Windows IP that I want to block? Because I need to give here the IP address of the Windows. Okay. So can anyone tell me what is my Windows IP? Because my Linux IP is 192.168.36.132. So what do you think could be my Windows IP address? Because Windows is the host.
Maybe it's the same, but it's like the last digit will be 1 or 0.
Exactly, not 0. 0 can never be an IP address.
Okay, it's 1 then.
Yeah, that's the network address. So remember, the easiest way to know is that, okay, if I want to find, if I know the Kali Linux IP address, and if I want to know what could be my Windows IP, it is always .1. Okay, I can show you here as well. If I write ipconfig, actually I have many interfaces, but because my VMnet 8 adapter is being used, so the IP address of my Windows is 36.1. So so what it means is that my Windows machine is communicating with the Linux through VMnet 8 adapter, okay? So 36.1 is my IP. So what I want to do now is just let me show you. Where is it? Yeah. So if you want to block the SSH, now it's a little bit weird, but you have to write SSHD instead of SSH if you want to allow it. So the syntax is like this, that first you will write the protocol you want to block, then you have to write colon, then you have to write the IP address that you want to block or allow, whatever. You have to write again a colon with a, you can press the tab on your keyboard to give some space, and then you have to write deny. So the first line basically means deny the SSH request coming from this IP address. So in my case, it will be 36.1. In your case, it will be your IP address. And in the second line, it says that allow rest of the network, starting from 192.168, whatever, 255.0 to /255. So the subnet mask is given there, right? So let me try to do this. So I will just write the first line, for example, just to block it first. Okay, so SSHD, and then just I press the tab on my keyboard. The IP address that I want to block, 192.168.36.1. And just let me go back. Okay. And then I just need to write deny, for example, okay? So SSH, just give a space here. So SSHD, and this is the IP that I want to deny. Okay, let me just Control O. And Control X exit. So let's just now see if what I just did, that I have denied the Windows from sending the SSH request, is it actually working or no? So 192.168.36.132. So as you can see, I did not get the login welcome or whatever. And then it also says that the connection has been aborted. So basically what it means is that my configuration in the host.allow file is working fine. I will try it one more time. Okay, I cannot access it. Now I have a question for you guys. I go back to the host.allow file and I will ask you something. So nano. So, okay, I haven't written a statement that says to deny others, but do you think the other hosts, they can send an SSH request aside from 36.1? Can they access the SSH or no?
No, they can't.
Okay, why not we just try to verify that, because now I need another virtual machine if I want to verify. You don't need to do that. I'm just doing it for you guys to. Where is my Windows machine? That's strange. I don't know the password of this one. Thinking which machine can I run? Let me run the second Kali Linux. So you need another virtual machine if you want to verify. It's not required in this lab. I'm just showing it to you so that basically we can get an idea that what I'm saying is actually. So I'm running another Kali Linux machine, and I will try to make an SSH from one Kali Linux machine to another, and let's see if it can actually SSH or not. So this is just a proof of concept for you guys, okay? You don't need another virtual machine. Just if you see that you cannot SSH by using PuTTY, your lab is done. I mean, that task is done. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to use the command prompt to make an SSH connection with the second Kali Linux machine. So I will say SSH 192.168.36.132, and Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes. So for example, well, what you can see here is that it is allowing me to make an SSH connection, right? So although I didn't log in, yeah, just a minute.
Like another command to allow another IPs to do the SSH.
Just a minute, please.
You saw this in the file before.
I forgot the.
So SSHD deny. It has another command to allow other.
Yeah, so now you can see, because if before it was, when I sent a simple SSH request, it by default, it asked me that I'm trying to log in as the root user. But if you want to specify the user, with which user you want to log in, you have to specify with -L. So I said SSH -L, the user is Raza, and then I want to make an SSH connection. It asked me for the password. I entered the password, and now I'm inside the other Kali Linux machine, as you can see it here. Now, what did we learn from this? That it does not deny the rest of the network.
Yeah.
So either you can explicitly allow it, or if you want to block the whole network, you have to block or deny the whole network and then allow only one IP address. So for example, if I just go ahead and just say here that, okay, I want to deny the, I want to allow only one IP address coming from the Windows, okay, but I want to deny rest of the, so usually this works like this, that you allow one IP, but you deny rest of them, right? So SSH colon, I'll say 192.168.36.0 thing /255. So I'm giving the subnet mask now. 55.0.
36, no?
Sorry?
It's 36, right?
Oh yeah, 36. Thank you. And then I'm going to write deny, okay? Control, so there's, I think everything is okay. So write out Control O, enter Control X. Now what I have done is that, let me go out of it. What I have done is that now I have allowed Windows again by writing this, by writing the first command. So Windows should be allowed now. Let's just try again. 192.168.36.132. And I click open. And as you can see, now the Windows is allowed because Windows IP address is 36.1. So I can log in as Raza and Tool, and now I'm logged in as an SSH. I have an SSH connection. But now when I try to do it from my other Kali Linux machine, it should be blocked. Let's just hope. And as you can see, when I'm sending the request, it's not making connection anymore. So you can see that the connection is reset by 36.132. So with this, we have actually completed our task of task number 5. So I'm going to stop here, and because the remaining task is only 2 remaining tasks. One is to block all the hosts from sending FTP requests. So when you will block, you will not be able to make an FTP from your Windows machine. And then the last task is to use the spawn option to log all the requests that are coming. So again, I don't need to give you the demo for that. It's actually written here what you need to do to. So the exact same line you are going to write in the host.allow file so that you can start recording whatever requests are coming. Like it's like creating a log file. So what it means here is that any type of protocol. If you want to specify that, okay, only log the SSH protocol, you have to write SSH here. Any source protocol, any destination protocol, or IP address, and then save it in /root/desktop/record.txt. So it's actually recording everything that is coming or every request that is coming. And here %s, %d, %c, I think this is, I don't know, remember exactly, but this shows the timestamp. So it will show like this when you open the record.txt file, for example, you can give it any name, okay? It will show you that, yeah. So the first all shows any protocol. The second all shows any IP address. And then it is going to show SSHD here. So I don't know why it's not giving the timestamp, because this %d is for the date, I think, or something like that. But anyways, use the same syntax and see if it can log all your requests that are coming to your machine, and that's it. Yeah, for printing the date, you have to use this syntax, okay? With the $/bin/date, so it will start printing the date. Okay, so I think I'm done. Like I said again, for when you submit on the platform, please submit everything. The optional lab also included in the otherwise there's nothing left for you to do in the compulsory lab. Okay, so go ahead and start the lab. I've taken a lot of time, I think more than an hour, so almost 1 hour, sorry. So you can go ahead and start doing it. If you have any problems, I'm here. You can just send me a message.
Mr. Asadu, what's the